Hi, I am Bhutan Dor, and today I'm bringing to you the full moon chart for August 27th, at least where I live. I live in California, so that's where it will be for me. But for I think most people, it's going to be on August 28th. It's a full moon in Pisces, partial lunar eclipse, and there is a square aspect from Uranus to the moon and the sun. I should say Uranus, but I always forget to say that. Anyway, I'm going to get started with my slideshow here, and I'm very excited to present this to you. But let me get it going here. Okay. So we're sharing the screen here. The Pisces full moon is, I think, a pretty special moon, the Pisces moon in general. I don't have any planets in the sign of Pisces, but I really appreciate this archetype. I think it's really beautiful. It's really deep. Like any other sign, it's got its pros and its cons. But for someone who has, I think, a lot of Scorpio in my chart, I feel the depth of Pisces and I appreciate it. So let's get going. Just to recap, it's going to be on August 27th or 28th. It is a partial lunar eclipse. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more detail. So I prepared the slideshow, and between the different episodes that I've been making, I love to read astrology books. So I like read different books. I look at the chart and I just kind of see what comes up in the energy of the charts and of the world. And when I looked at this chart for the full moon in Pisces that we're about to have here, I really felt like there's this thing with Pisces where it's a sign that it does its best when it's compassionate. And I think that there's sort of this like challenging the ego or letting go of the ego that arises in the best parts of of Pisces. And so I have this idea of the living turnarounds. I got it from Byron Katie. I absolutely adore the work of Byron Katie. If you don't know who she is a woman who she had agoraphobia, and she has been married 3 times. She's raised 3 kids, and she had like a deep depression when she was middle-aged. And there was just so much wisdom that came out of what she went through. And her work is called The Work. And I am just someone I'm a big fan of hers. And so one of the ideas that she talks about is this idea of the living turnaround. And you really got to know her work to understand it, I think, fully. But I will share here that what you do is that you say you have a thought that is causing you a lot of pain or a lot of suffering, and you take the thought and then you ask yourself, is it true? And do you really know that it's true? And you really sit with it and be honest with yourself. And you go through this process, like, how would you feel if you didn't believe the thought? And then one thing that she does at the end of doing the questioning is she'll turn the thought around. And when you turn these thoughts around, you get these like radical shifts in perspective. And with this Pisces full moon, I'm going to show you the chart soon. You can see this square aspect that's happening from Uranus to the sun and the moon. And I really feel like this idea of living the turnarounds with Uranus and Gemini and the duality and the square aspect being an aspect that really challenges us to grow. I just really was feeling into the living turnarounds, and I'll continue to talk about that a little bit more. So, in this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about the Pisces full moon, which is a partial lunar eclipse. It's 96%. The Earth is going to be eclipsing the sun, and then there's like this beautiful coppery light that will shine onto the moon. 96% is a lot. It's almost a full lunar eclipse. I also want to present the significators of Pisces, which are Jupiter in ancient astrology and Neptune in modern astrology. I want to go over the square aspect in general. There's a new book that's out by an astrologer who's just really funny, and I appreciate his writing a lot. And what he has to say about the square aspect is really fascinating. And then I'll go into the Uranus square from the sun and moon. And then at the very end, I do want to just bring up for a moment the Mercury Cazimi that's going to be happening in Virgo, because the full moon, is opposite the sun. So we've got the full moon in Pisces, and then we've got the sun in Virgo. And so bringing up a little bit of that Virgo action in there and talking about that. So here we go. So this is the chart. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. I wish I had a pointer. I don't. So I will describe it, but where the moon is in the sign of Pisces, it's going to be at 4 degrees, seeing the sun at 4 degrees in Virgo. Now, if you look for the glyph for Uranus, which is my son calls it looks like the Hubble spacecraft. So that's in Gemini right now. And there's a red line from the moon to that. And then it's Uranus is at 5 degrees. And then you'll also see that there is a square to Uranus to the sun. And so Uranus is going to be squaring both the sun and moon, which are both opposed to each other. And Mercury is all tucked in there. And so that's what I wanted to go over today. Of course, there's many other aspects, and they're all great to look at, but that's what I wanted to focus on mainly for this episode, and to really flesh out this full moon chart. But before we get into the energy of right now, I just want to recap on last week's episode. That was a really, really intense energy that happened with the total solar eclipse in Leo. I'm sure many of you felt it. I was like hearing all kinds of things in my life, like big things, like people getting divorced, people getting fired from their jobs, people having like huge revelations. It's just a very intense time. And I actually did have some pretty intense stuff happen to me too. But one thing that was kind of really cool was that, so I love astrology. I'm a big astrology nerd. And there's this book by this astrologer named Sophia Mason that I have been using for years. My astrology mentor gave it to me a while ago. So props to him for hooking me up with that book. But I've used it to learn about the moon. And, my channel is based on the moon, and my focus in astrology is on the moon. And this book by this author, Sophia Mason, has like changed my life. It's an astrologer that I really appreciate. So, and I've been living like pretty frugally lately, and I haven't spent much money, but I kind of broke down and bought another book by her because I love her book so much. And it's the only one I have. And she's written quite a few books, and she's deceased. So I don't think her books are in print. And I found a book through like a third party seller. And it's another book about lunations. So I bought it. This was like a while ago and I kind of forgot about it. And I remember it said there was only one left in stock. So on the day of the eclipse, and I use her book all the time to learn about the eclipses. I mean, she's there with me in her reading, like I'm reading her books all the time to learn about eclipses, to learn about the moon. And on the day of the eclipse, the package arrived. I had forgotten I had even bought it. I kind of started to remember when I was opening it, and it was like all really neatly like packaged. And I could feel that it was special when I started opening it. And I open it and it's like this really old, it looks like it's been typed on a typewriter. And there's like old charts, like it really made me appreciate, like now we can get a chart so easily, but like back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, astrologers were, having to make their own wheels and draw in all the degrees on their own. And in this book, you could see her handwriting, like she was like, she puts them up as like diagrams in her book of her own astrology charts that she's come up with. And it was just so cool. And the coolest part about it was when I open it up and I see it, it's autographed. She's autographed it. So that's my eclipse story. I don't know if it's going to be that cool for anyone else out there, but if you are a big Sophia Mason fan, I have an autographed copy of her book. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, maybe someone wrote her name on there, but I'm just going to go ahead and believe that she's the one. It just says written out in pen, Sophia Mason, right on it. So anyway, that's my nerdy astrology story. I hope everyone else had a really interesting, fun, hopefully eclipse. Hopefully something cool happened. All right, so let's get back to the lunar eclipse. So that's what we're going to be experiencing with this full moon. A lunar eclipse is a big deal. In Sophia Mason's book, she talks about how the lunar eclipse, the effects of it last up to 6 months. So it's not as intense as the total solar eclipse, but it is intense energy. And it's worth looking at in your chart to figure out what's going to be going on for you. And so this is what a lunar eclipse is here. You can see on this diagram here. So lunar eclipse is sun, earth, and then moon. And from what I understand, the earth is sort of blocking the sun, and then there's just sort of like whatever light is sort of left over will shine onto the moon. And I could be wrong about that, so somebody please let me know, but it should have this sort of reddish coppery color. And I have seen this once before, and it's really, really beautiful. And I do hope that I can see it. And I really like this diagram because it will go over the different types of eclipses here. So we have before eclipse, so the moon is fully lit before entering Earth's shadow. Penumbral eclipse, the moon enters Earth's penumbral shadow, slight darkening, may be hard to see. Partial eclipse, the moon enters Earth's umbral shadow, a portion of the moon darkens. Total eclipse, the entire moon is in Earth's umbra. It may appear red or copper, like a blood moon. And then a partial eclipse, the moon begins to leave Earth's umbra, and then light returns to part of the moon. And the last two I actually can't see on my screen because of the way that I have it casted. My video blocks it, but it shows it again here. And key facts, a lunar eclipse can only happen at a full moon, and it's safe to look at with the naked eye. A total lunar eclipse can last over an hour. So that's what we're headed into here. Pretty good stuff. So Pisces, and we're dealing with a lot of mutable energy in this chart. So we've got the Pisces full moon, we have the sun in Virgo, I just threw in Sagittarius there because it's another one of the mutable signs. And then we're going to be talking about Uranus and Gemini, which is also mutable. So these are the signs that prepare us for the next seasons. Like as we go into Virgo, we're going to be approaching the equinox, the fall equinox. So we will be headed into a new season. The mutable signs are adaptable and transition focused. And you could, like Pisces has represented by two fish, so you kind of like have both things. Virgo is the Virgin. There's not much I could say that goes with mutable there. Sagittarius, a centaur, half horse, half man. Gemini is the twins. So you can see how duality gets played out. I'm sure there's some way to figure out the duality of Virgo. If you know, let me know. I dusted off a book on my bookshelf. It's called The Pulse of Life. It's by a famous modern astrologer named Dane Rudyard. And his writing is super unique. It was hard to pull quotes, but I found these two, and I really feel like they express the idea of Pisces, which is in its highest and most spiritual aspect. Pisces reveals itself as pure compassion. Compassion is the absolute law of a universe in which there is order and harmony. Compassion is the heart of reality. So I believe that the sort of like the highest level of Pisces is really like when we're able to shed that ego and we're able to access our own wisdom and we're able to be spiritual. And it is a very spiritual sign. In astrology, there's kind of like ancient, like right now, there's like this big revival, which is really cool. And actually, I was trained that way. A lot of the astrologers that I listen to and that I read about, they're really into ancient astrology and they use ancient astrology. I can't help myself though. I really love the modern astrology too. And so I'm going to look at both. And for me, I'm someone who I definitely will look at the outer planets when I'm doing a chart. And I think what the modern astrologers have brought to astrology is incredible. Love it. Okay, so is associated with the planet Jupiter because it's expansion, it's spiritual, it's compassion, mercy, trust and surrender, wisdom of the soul. Greater than ourselves is to touch Jupiter and Pisces with passion and action. And then Pisces is associated with the planet Neptune, which I think totally tracks. And so Neptune is associated with the unseen realm, boundless compassion, spiritual seeker and flow, unity and oneness. And I think that Neptune, for me, I think is more accurate of an association for Pisces because when we look at the significations of Neptune, I mean, it really says it's like really you have like the good and bad. And maybe I shouldn't say the good and the bad. You have the sort of high level, low level aspect that can be very spiritual. It can also be very fake. It could be delusional. I mean, it's just like with any other sign, you know, we have to be real. It's like, you know, it's life. There's everything. I like what it says down here. It says Neptune dissolves boundaries. Pisces flows with the currents of the unseen. Neptune rules Pisces, the mystic and the merciful, where spirit meets soul. So we've got that going on here. And if you look in this chart, it's great to look at where the significators are for the planets in question here. And I'm looking at this full moon chart. So if I'm looking at this, I want to look, where is Jupiter? Well, Jupiter's in Leo down there. And where is Neptune? They're actually trining each other. So Neptune is in Aries. So um, you, I recommend, if you want to know what this full moon is going to bring to you, I mean, you really have your own chart and look where Pisces is going to be, what houses are all these planets going to be in. Jupiter and Leo is going to be activated in your chart. Neptune and Aries is going to be activated, and to look and see what that's going to bring up for you. We're talking about fire and water here. And then for the sun in Virgo, the significator for the sun is Mercury. And then you've got this Mercury, which is overshadowed by the sun in this chart, but just barely. It will be Cazimi right before. And we'll take a look at that. But, the moon is opposing that. It's Mercury in Virgo is such a great placement for Mercury to be in Virgo. But if you're looking at this chart, the Virgo, even though it's the Mercury in Virgo is stressed, being so close to the sun, being overpowered by the sun, and then opposed to the moon. So there could be challenges in communication that could come up in this full moon. I would say there's going to be a flash of insight. I'll talk about that later, but it could be challenging. Could be, but it won't last for long because Mercury is moving very fast. So, but the main aspect that I wanted to look at again is these two squares. So we've got Uranus square the moon, and then Uranus square the sun. So the square aspect is people get scared maybe on their chart. These red lines. It's a 90-degree angle. The square. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge in the chart. I want to read to you this. This is from an astrologer named Robert Phoenix, who's hilarious. He wrote a book called The Celestial Blueprint. He says in his book he has 8 squares in his chart, so he's very familiar with dealing with the square aspect. He says the square aspect, the 90-degree angle, is the fundamental structure of material reality. Think about it. Houses are built on right angles. Cities are laid out on grids. The rooms you live in, the screens you look at, the furniture you sit on, all of it organized around the square. The moment human civilization tries to build something, we reach for the square. Like a brick, or that's a rectangle, but you know what I mean, something with 90-degree angles. The cornerstone. When you have squares in your chart, you're working with Saturnian energy by another name. You're working with the energy of mastery through constraint, of strength through resistance. The square isn't a punishment, it's a load-bearing wall. Let me read just the first part of that again. The square aspect, the 90-degree angle, is the fundamental structure of material reality. So these are aspects that they provide constraints, which is not always fun, but they make us grow and they teach us about reality. And they're not always easy. He also says in his book, he's like, say you're holding a dumbbell, like you have a dumbbell in your hand and you hold it at a 90-degree angle. You can't do that for very long. You will get tired. And that's a really good symbol with a square aspect. So in this full moon chart, having a square from Uranus to the sun and to the moon, Mercury being overshadowed by the sun, it's going to be, I think it's going to bring up it's going to ask to shift our perspectives and to look at things, I think, in a whole new way. Full moon is going to bring, there's a challenger, there's a astrologer who says, like, what does she call it? She says it's growth astrology or something like that. Like, it's not easy. It's not going to be like a day at the beach. It's going to ask us to, with Uranus and Gemini, it's going to ask us to think a little bit differently to grow us. And the sun is the truth and the light, and the moon is our home and our bodies and our food. And squaring both those at the same time. You know, it's asking, it's going to ask us to shift. And you have to look in your chart to kind of see specifically where that is going to be. I would say if Uranus is in your third house, for example, a shift in communication. Fourth house, maybe a shift in how you manage your home. Fifth house, a shift in how you're creative and how you create, or with your children. We can look at that. See, for me, it's going to be sixth house. So the day-to-day, the routine, the work. Yeah. So that brings me to the living turnarounds, which was basically my theme for this full moon chart, and how to get the most out of it. I highly recommend looking at the work, because I don't know that I'm going to do this presentation on the living turnarounds justice if you haven't seen the work done before. But essentially what it is that you take a thought that you're having. So I put one up here. It's like, he lied to me. And you just play around. It's just you play around, and you try it on in different perspectives. Like, he lied to me. I know he lied to me. You know, and then if you were doing the work with Brian and Katie, you would then ask yourself, is it true? How do I feel when I believe that thought? But then you would get to a point where you would turn around and you say, he lied to me. You know, I lied to me. I lied to me thinking that he was, you know, not, you know, like a real person who makes mistakes. Actually, he didn't lie to me. He didn't lie to me. He told me the truth. And I said he lied to me, but he actually came out and was honest with me. I lied to him. Did I lie to him? Possibly. And so this is called stillness and self-inquiry. And I'm bringing it up in this episode just because I think that this Uranus square is going to grow us. And I think that these living turnarounds are incredibly powerful if you can try them on and you can see past your own ego. And I think that's where the Pisces aspect of this all plays. And then the compassion piece, you know, should come into play too. I mean, he lied to me. Well, maybe he was scared to tell me. Let's maybe have compassion for him. Look at the person that, you know, he's dealing with. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was scared to tell me the truth in the beginning before he did tell me the truth. Because he actually maybe later didn't lie to me. He told me the truth. I lied to him. I told him I wouldn't get mad at him again, but I did. And so it's like, I'm just playing around here, but I could play around with these all day long. And so, okay, the last thing that I want to bring up is right before the full moon, literally right before, I think hours before, we have a Mercury cazimi. It's when Mercury is totally conjunct the sun. Mercury will be in the heart of the sun, and that is an illumination. It's powerful. It's a powerful illumination. Could be something mental, could be an insight. It will be rather quick. Mercury moves really fast when it's next to the sun. It picks up speed when it's near the Earth because of the gravitational pull, and then it kind of slows back down the further that it is from the sun. And so this is also called a superior cazimi. I just learned this. The last cazimi we had in Cancer was an interior cazimi. It was Mercury going retrograde back to the sun, which was super interesting. This one is just more kind of like a normal cazimi. It happens quite quick. And I just have one last slide here to convey that. This is why Mercury moves so fast near the sun. So closer to the sun, the faster that it moves around it, there's a stronger pull and greater speed. So gravity pulls Mercury inward, but its forward motion keeps it from. This creates a perfect balance that makes Mercury move extremely fast. So when you are looking at a chart or reading a chart, this is something that I learned when I took an astrology class, is that you want to know how fast the planets are moving. It's symbolic. In this case, I mean, Mercury is always, you will never see a chart where like Mercury is opposed. Mercury is always near the sun, but the closer that it is to the sun, the faster that it goes. So if you are doing like an horary chart, for example, your querent, that's the person who's like, you want represented by Mercury and it's close to the sun, it's going to be moving fast. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say here. So anyway, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you if you stayed with me until the end here. My name is, and I love talking about astrology. I am doing readings. I have my email on my YouTube channel, and feel free to email me with questions about me providing a reading for you. I do horary astrology. It's where you ask a question and then the astrologer, which would be myself, notes the time once I understand the question, and then I pull up a chart and clues and see more fully than without astrology. I mean, I love it. I think it's been really helpful for me. I feel like we can't always see what's going on, and it's a way to kind of look and figure out certain pieces to a puzzle. I mean, you can do horary astrology for anything. You can do it for like a missing pet, missing items, missing person, legal relationships. There's no end to what questions you can ask. Would like to specialize in relationship charts, romantic and otherwise. I feel that's where my horary astrology shines. Interested in that, please reach out to me. I can also do natal astrology, looking at your natal chart. But I would focus on the nodes or the eclipses too with